Red Hair Shanks is one of the most beloved characters in One Piece and has achieved this in a total of less than 20 chapters. So today we'll look into why I and so many people love Shanks. Also, let me know where you have Shanks on your favorite character list. An introduction to a character is extremely vital as it can make or break a character. This is no different for Shanks, as he is brought in at chapter 1 and had a powerful introduction. Shanks is, from what we know, the sole influence for Luffy to become a pirate. He shows Luffy the good of pirating, such as his crew, the laughs, and adventure, but also the bad, such as the dangers of the sea. He also instills some morals onto Luffy, that being some things can be ignored, but always take care of the people that you care for. Something he really didn't understand at first, but this would be something that Luffy would carry on for years to come. The most important thing I need to emphasize comes at the end of chapter 1. This is when Shanks uses the first instance of Haki in the series on a Sea King. This would let every reader or watcher know this guy is much more than we imagine, and the best way to describe Shanks is powerful and mysterious, as well in my opinion being the pirate in this current era. Basically what I mean is, when I think of a pirate and his crew currently, I will immediately point to Shanks. His on-screen presence will always make you pay attention. This would go on to be even stronger as the series progresses. So what we learn in chapter 1, Shanks is good to his people, powerful, and shrouded by mystery, making a recipe that would make people start to like Shanks or at least be invested. Following chapter 1, Shanks would only physically appear in about 8 more chapters up until chapter 1000, disregarding flashbacks. Though Oda would make sure every time he does appear, it once again adds to his mystery and power. Fast forward about 95 chapters, we're reintroduced to Mihawk as Shanks' eternal rival in the series, as well as his eternal rival amongst fans, which, having saw what he'd done to Zoro as the world's strongest swordsman, this would spark a debate that continues to this day. Regardless of who you think is stronger between these two, one thing was made clear, that Shanks is on the level of the strongest. Shanks is once again associated with the strongest in chapter 234, as well as the follow-up to this in chapter 434. This is where we see Shanks heading off to see Whitebeard, also known as the world's strongest man. And during this, Shanks uses Conqueror's Haki to knock out some of Whitebeard's crew, this being the first time it's used, with the name of the ability also mentioned. The real reason Shanks was there was to warn him about a looming threat, Marshal D. Teach. This should automatically put in anyone's mind that if someone like Shanks, who fans hold to high standards, is warning about Blackbeard, then he should be taken seriously. This made me like Shanks even more due to the fact he can put his pride aside to warn another person he had no real business with. Shanks continued pleading with Whitebeard to stop Ace, as he knew he would lose. It's also implied in Ace's novel Shanks knew he was Roger's son, so this, along with the danger of Teach, would play into Shanks' care for others very well. Shanks would clash with the world's strongest man, splitting the sky, which throughout the series is only used to signify the seriously strong fighters. So through only a few chapters, Shanks is already intertwined with two of the strongest, as well as the Pirate King, Luffy's brother, and presumably one of, if not the final villain in One Piece, Blackbeard. Now, for fans, it's very easy to back this man, as you generally know he is a good person, at least in relativity to other pirates, as well as he can clearly hang in battle with the best of them. Then every time he appears, it is in connection with very integral pieces to the story, which will always keep you interested to how grand this character really is. But we really still don't know anything at this point. Now we enter Marineford. This is where we see the aftermath that Shanks warned Whitebeard about. Blackbeard finished off Whitebeard and now has his fruit, as well as Ace has fallen to the hands of Akainu, which are events Shanks had tried to stop previously. Whitebeard didn't take Shanks serious enough, so he paid the ultimate consequences. So in the end, Shanks enters Marineford and the energy shifts, deciding to end the war himself. He ends up stopping Akainu, who is presumably the strongest marine currently and the final saga antagonist, from eliminating Kobe. Shanks tells them to stop the war, which Blackbeard and Sengoku comply, clearly with Shanks having an influence within the government. The viewer can gather Shanks has the power and influence to put an end to this war that features many of the world's strongest combatants, solidifying Shanks' on-screen presence the most potent in the series in just his 6th chapter in the current story. Also, around the events of Marineford, Shanks stopped Kaido, also referred to as the world's strongest creature, from coming to Marineford, in which there was a scuffle resulting in Kaido retreating. Marineford is where I'd assume many fans put in their mind as Shanks being the strongest. This is despite there being contradiction to this. Shanks was the only one in action every time he appeared or encountering one of the strongest. Shanks also stated following Marineford there needs to be a proper funeral for Ace and Whitebeard out of respect, as well as sharing his condolences for Luffy. So now Shanks has been in combat with 3 of the quote-unquote world's strongest, Whitebeard, Mihawk, and Kaido, along with Akainu, presumably the strongest current Marine. He has the morals, the likability, the presence, and the backing of fans waiting to see when he will take action again. Now we need to jump 400 chapters to chapter 903, where Shanks is happy seeing the progress Luffy has made in the pirating world following the events of Whole Cake Island, now knowing Luffy is starting to enter the big leagues. This is honestly just a wholesome moment for fans, knowing the history between these two, seeing Luffy keep progressing. Shanks would also visit the Gorosei soon after this, seemingly trying to warn them about a certain pirate, which we presume is Blackbeard, and this is much bigger than we thought. As of recent chapters, we find out the Blackbeard pirate's plan has something to do with the world. What that is, we don't really know yet, but what we do know is his crew has grown a lot stronger now, as well as having someone who can take the form of Gorosei member Saturn. Now, I don't think Shanks knew about all of this information, but it's clear he knows the insane threat that Blackbeard is. After Wano's conclusion, there was a shift from Oda in regards to Shanks. Now Shanks recognizes Luffy has entered into a new level of power and declares to go for the One Piece. I believe Shanks' main reason for doing this is he knows the further Luffy goes, the closer he gets to running into Blackbeard. We can assume this as Shanks is always trying to keep tabs on Blackbeard, as well as he doesn't want anyone else getting hurt by him, so he'll do it himself this time. If this is the case, Shanks could possibly feel some level of responsibility for letting this carry on. The final thing we see from Shanks up to this point is when Kid tries to run it back with Shanks for previous events, in which the last time resulted in Ben Beckman removing Kid's arm. Shanks steps up for the people he cares about once again, destroying Kid with one of the most strongest attacks in the series, and for the first time seemingly using a good amount of his power to defeat one of the head supernovas who had just taken down a Yonko with Law. Now that we've entered a point in the story following Wano, it's clear Shanks is going to be one of the driving forces moving forward. For all the fans who've been invested in this character, they know how much he brings and the very little screen time he does have. We're really going to see how deep rooted this character actually is as we approach the ending of this final saga. Knowing Oda, he will make it pay off in an amazing way, but that's yet to be seen. But yeah, hopefully that was interesting enough, as I don't make these kind of vids very often, but I wanted to speak on a character who's deeper than most people realize. So let me know your thoughts on Shanks and how you hope his story will progress. Expect more of these type of videos in the future, as I had a good time making this video about Shanks. But that's pretty much it for me. If you like the video, subscribe if you want. That's all for me. Peace.